Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing absolutely amazing today on Fantastic Friday. So if you are new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. We're smashing the subs out. We're trying to get to 10k by this time next year. It's a huge challenge, but we can do it. We did do supremely well in 2022. So if you are coming back, welcome to you. And obviously what we're doing is we're cranking up our off-season content. Point of note, make sure if you do want to become a member of the channel, there is no obligation, but we are giving away a $100 prepaid gift voucher on February the 4th. There will be a members only live stream. We'll do a random draw. We'll have a bit of a chat for an hour or so and just casual. And if you have got any video suggestions, drop them in the comments. Now, I always look at YouTube around this time of year and it's about being creative. It's about being creative. And you know me, I like to put my neck on the line. I don't mess around here and play safe. We always go bold on the Pommy and Oz challenge. And we're going to look at my predicted top 10 players for next year. So when we look at 2022, there's a lot of categories that you can judge them on, but you know what I mean? You'd probably say Neil, Oliver, Cripps, Cameron. They would be probably your top 4 based on that. Cameron would probably be a good shout as well. He won the flag. So what I'm trying to do is the best, most important players. We're talking game changers in this. And there's a few surprises with the players that I will do. So in the comments, do your 10 to 1 right now. And we'll have a look. But the 10th most impactful player, I'm going to go with this fella, Connor Rozee. Now, at the moment, I probably have him in my top 30. I think he's going to have a really big year for Port. And I think he's going to really take on the mantle like Sam Walsh did. Now, Sam Walsh obviously harbouring a bit of injury. Will miss out a bit. And that's probably why people aren't talking about him so much. But I reckon Connor Rozee, full year at it. I think he's going to become a real impactful player and become the star at Port Adelaide. We know Boak's on his last legs. Gray's retired. I reckon Connor is going to go into that next category and really break out. And I think he's been good. I don't think he's had his breakout year, though, Connor, in my honest, humble opinion. So Connor Rozee is one of them players that I'm looking at next year. And I think he will break into that top 10 for 2023. So this isn't top 10 best players, top 10 best years for that. So I think he's going to absolutely tear the game up and become a real important part of Port. And he's kind of through that stage, isn't he, Port? That they're looking for that new star. In at 9 is a player that I froth. I'm a big fan. And I think Hugh McCluggage is, if he hasn't already, he will go into them upper echelons. I still don't think he probably gets enough kudos when he's at the club, and I don't think people talk about him enough. But when I look at the club, I see a supreme footballer, someone that changes the game, good turn of pace, good user of the ball, looking to do the right thing. So Hugh McCluggage is a guy that I really think 2023, it'll be that year where he's in the top 10 of footballers. I think he's a supreme footballer and one that I'm really excited about seeing what another year will hold. In at 8, and one of the favourites of the channel, Tom Stewart, in my opinion, one, if not one of the premier players in the competition. And I think he's very understated. I don't think defenders get enough love in the AFL. And I look at Tom Stewart and I look at the layers he's built in the game, like them 30 touch games last year. He's really not only taken defence to another level, but it's his impact on transition, his ability to impact the game. And I think he's a real high impact player. And he's a player that I incredibly take a lot of enjoyment in watching. Tom Stewart is one of my favourites to watch from opposition clubs. Definitely a player that I get really excited about. And I think he's going to really have a big year next year. I've got a feeling he's going to be a big year. 7, my boy, he's just above me there, Charlie Curnow. For me, in my opinion, best 2 forwards in the league. And I know that's a big call. We know I love him. I think Charlie Curnow, there is no one like him in the AFL. I think he's another level. Now, I remember being on this show last year and talking about Charlie Curnow, and I had people saying, oh, Peter Wright's better than him. He ended up winning the Coleman. Call me a prophet, if you want. But, I mean, there's no doubt about it. For me, how he plays is so hard to defend. It's pure X Factor. The best forward at Carlton, in my opinion, by a country mile, and probably the best forward in the AFL, bar Jeremy Cameron. And I think Cameron has an easier job, to be honest, with the way Geelong play than Charlie does. And for me, no one better. No one better. And if we were doing a fantasy draft of players, Charlie Curnow would be one of the top 2 players I pick. Absolute supreme player. And I think will finally be in that conversation of the 10 best players in the league, which I'm surprised he isn't already, but he doesn't get the love. 6 is Tuck Miller, another guy. This bottom 5 is literally people that no one gives kudos to. Tuck Miller, Cripps gets a lot of kudos for being the best player at a crap club when Carlton were horrible for the last decade. But since he's come in, and Cripps has always been that, Tuck Miller for me is the guy that plays second fiddle to a brand name and now is the brand name. Puts in, works hard. A player that I hate seeing in the opposition when we're playing because you know he's going to give you a hard time. Incredible around stoppages. Good turn of place. Plays route direct football as well. Tuck Miller, if he played for one of the Melbourne clubs, would have won a Brownlow by now. There is no doubt in my mind that if he played for one of the big clubs, he would be in there. Because he's at Gold Coast, he gets forgotten about. And it's all right. Oh, Pom, Gary Ablett Jr. won a Brownlow. Gary Ablett would have won a Brownlow playing for Southport. You know what I mean? He's that good. Tuck Miller, though, doesn't have that celebrity about him. But for me, a real solid, honest footballer. And in my opinion, he's already top 10 in the league. And a player that if he was on free agent, everyone come in. Top 5, another guy that really probably had a breakout year in 2022. Andrew Brayshaw. If you lost Nat Fife for a large portion of the year, you would have said Fremantle were cooked, and Fife had his injury troubles. He plays a tough brand. Brayshaw came out of the blocks and really took over that midfield, and probably unlucky not to be higher up in the Brownlow. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people had him as their smoky. Brayshaw, for me, phenomenal footballer. He's added so many layers in the last year that I expect him to add more layers, and Fremantle are building that midfield around Brayshaw. You can see it. I think he will really catapult again and become a real staple. I love what Brayshaw does. Simple footballer as well. He does the basics right. Someone that I'm a huge, huge fan of. Now we're in the top 5. Some noticeable omissions before you come at me being a Carlton fan. Sam Walsh isn't there, spoiler. I think the opening part of the season, I'm predicting 4 or 5 rounds. I know he's running, but it's running. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't surprise me. There's no way Carlton will rush him back, and I'll be fuming if we do rush him back. So I think that injury is going to curtail him a little bit. So I think you've got to play for the majority of the year for it, but he would definitely be top 10 most skillful footballers. Here I'm going with top 10 of the year. And in at 4, sliding a little bit, Jeremy Cameron. We know this guy is potent. Has kind of carried the forward stocks the last 3 years, particularly at Geelong. He's really come out of his shell, and it's not hard to stand out at Geelong, is it? I mean, I'm pretty sure I could turn up in the forward pocket last year for Geelong and probably have 25 plus to my name. So when you're a juggernaut like this fella, it's no surprise he kicks the goals. Midfielders always get the kudos though, don't they? Because they get the sexy stats. Forwards don't, but Jeremy Cameron, I think, works incredibly hard. If you watch him and Curnow, very similar facets. They work incredibly hard up the ground as well to impact play. He's a beast. It's no doubt it's a beast. And if you were creating a dream 22, like you see in football, if you had the ultimate team in FIFA, there's no doubt the 2 forwards you'd have in your keys are Jeremy Cameron and Curnow. For me, that's logic. So Cameron is the 4th best, and I think he'll continue. I just can't see how he cannot score goals at Geelong. In at 3, we're in the top 3, and we've gone Clayton Oliver. Is there a risk, I think, sometimes that Clayton Oliver is overrated? Now, don't come at me. I see a lot of people do these, like, who's the best player in the AFL, and Clayton Oliver comes in there. He's certainly up there. Do I think he's the best? I really don't. As the 3rd, I think he'll be solid. I think you look at what is around the Melbourne midfield. I think he's got a lot of help, and I think that allows him to play his best football. I don't personally think if they were like 2018 Carlton, Clayton Oliver would stand out so much as he does now, as Cripps did. My honest opinion, that's unbiased as well. I genuinely, though, not taking away from Clayton Oliver, terrific footballer, strong at the contest, does everything right, and he's definitely a player that, from him coming into the AFL to now, has really built a lot of layers. So it's not taking it away from him. I do think, though, we talk about underrated guys. This guy gets a lot of kudos. A lot of kudos. So that maybe works against him, right? In at 2, Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale, for me, is a guy that I feel like at times gets the McRae rap. And the Tom Mitchell rap. He gets a lot of the ball, but what does he do? Lachie Neale, dangerous in the forward half of the ground, dangerous around stoppage, dangerous defending as well. Very underrated part of his game. Something at Brisbane you've really seen as well, that he's really added layers on from his Fremantle time. Lachie Neale, very complete, very well-rounded footballer. Big part of if they're going to go deep, get to the final, win the flag even, Lachie Neale has to be a part of that and play his best football, in my opinion. Phenomenal footballer and a guy that can change the game. Change the game. And we're at 1. Who's numero uno? Now, probably said Clayton Oliver's overrated by a lot of people, so I'm probably going to get a bit of hate for that. But you know what? You put your face on camera, you deserve it. Number 1, Patrick Cripps. I think Cripps will retain his Brownlow next year. I also think Cripps will start getting, in my opinion, the respect he deserves. I find when the biggest insult I hear about any footballer is he's tough. I find that that's a cop-out. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, that's a cop-out. I think Cripps is so much more than tough as a footballer. And I think one thing that's impressed me over the last 2 years, and I've always been a critic of Cripps, because I see there's another layer to Patrick Cripps' game, which we started to see last year as Carlton got better, that he is an offensive threat. He is more than get tough ball and pass it. He can change games himself, and we've seen that in stints under previous management. I thought last year you really saw it, and I think again this year it's only going to get more dramatic. And I look at Voss as kind of the guy leading that charge. Powers there, a lot of good football heads are there. I think he's going to become our Michael Voss. I think he's going to be the guy that changes games. I think he's going to be the superstar. And I get the feeling that next year there is going to be a 35 goal year from Cripper. A real offensive threat, resting in the forward half of the ground, really taking the game in. And I think Cripps will go to another level. Now he's got that Brownlow. Now he's got the recognition, an MVP and a Brownlow in the back pocket. I expect this gentleman to go another level. And in my opinion, I think when the dust is settled, he will be the best player in the league as it comes in. But that's my opinion. I'm always, as always, open to your guys and girls' suggestions. Let me know in the comments who are going to be your top 10 by the end of the year. Try and throw in some surprises. I've tried to throw in some surprises there. I've tried to make it an interesting video in the terms of not go with the familiar faces and try and have a bit of discussion point. Let me know. Make sure if you do become a member, make sure you've done that by we go live, because we're going to have it all set up for it. Until next time, have a great weekend. Pommy out.